And a welcome to the UFC, to Brazil's D. Gomes, who's coming in off of Dana White's Contender Series Week 5. We're already into Week 8, so it hasn't been all that long for Gomes. She picked up a big-time decision win over Rayane Amanda, and if you look at it for Gomes, trains out of Parana Valley Tudo, a great gym with Jessica Andrade, Carol Hossa. I mean, the list of names goes on, and Mariya Oliveira. Like, there's so many great women that train at that gym at a very high level that it works out great for Gomes, and if you look at it for her, pretty darn good level competition as well. 100%. I mean, coming in, she got a win on Invicta, and I struggle mightily to pronounce her opponent's name, but it was Milana Dudieva, former UFC fighter. She gets the win over there by knockout. She fights Amanda about, just a few weeks ago. It'll be 3 weeks. I was going to say to the day, but it's a Tuesday to a Saturday. But again, she gets this fight on short notice, taking on Loma Lookboonmee. And Matt, people know Loma Lookboonmee. They've known her for a very long time. And if we get into the nitty-gritty, Thai national team for Muay Thai. She started to switch from Muay Thai over to MMA in 2017. Made her MMA debut in 2018. She went, 3-1? And then she ended up in the UFC, and she's been 3-2 since. And she struggled with the takedown in some of her fights. She's been taken down in pretty well every fight in the UFC. But the weird thing is, in the fights that she's won, she's kind of incorporated it into her own game to accentuate her striking. And she's played out pretty well. I mean, you do look at the wins, you look at the losses. She beats Alexandra Albu, who's no longer with the promotion, by split decision. Loses to Angela Hill. Beats Jinyu Fry, beats Sam Hughes, and doesn't get taken down in that fight, I should add. And loses to Lupe Godinez. But for Loma Lookboonmee, very crisp striking, very mean when she decides to strike. I would not want to fight Loma Lookboonmee, nor would I want to fight D. Gomes. But when you do look at this matchup, for Lookboonmee, she was always a staple at Tiger Muay Thai, but she got into MMA because of the Hickman brothers, followed them to their new gym, Bangtao Muay Thai, where the champ trains in this division. So that's pretty cool to see. Zhang Wei Li is there. But again, the Hickman brothers, staples of her camp. And I think this is going to be a really fun fight between a couple of fighters who pride themselves on their Muay Thai skills.
It should be a really fun fight. The thing with Loma Lookboonmee is I throw her in a bit of that Tony Gravely category, where she's fought the better levels of competition, I would say. Angela Hill was a ranked fighter at one point. Lupita Godinez is no scrub by any means. But like you had said, Loma Lookboonmee's been around for a while now. Or at least it's felt like she's been around for a while now, and I really did think she was going to be able to break her way into the rankings at some point throughout her UFC tenure, and the fact that we're this many fights in, and she's fighting somebody on, 3 weeks notice coming off Contender Series, is a little bit surprising, because with Lookboonmee, she's very interesting. Technique-wise, yes, she's very good, but the size disadvantage that she has in this weight class is always going to come back to bite her. It doesn't matter how crisp of a striker you are if you can't engage in the range of your opponent, and as we have seen in her losses, a lot of fighters who can stick, use their footwork a lot, mix in their own takedown to sort of put out the fire when she does start to go with her own striking. There is a game plan there to beat somebody like Loma Lookboonmee, and that's why I'm always curious if she ever will add a new wrinkle to her game. She has been able to use the offensive takedown a lot more as of late, but I do think that's more of a matter of her having to rush in because of her striking style. She's not somebody who can really afford to kick on the outside. I'll even think of like a Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson throws a lot of push kicks, right? Those push kicks aren't necessarily...
Loma throws a lot of push kicks too.
I know, but let me finish. Tony Ferguson throws a push kick to keep his opponent away from him, to keep the range exactly where he wants it to be. But when he throws the push kick, his opponents aren't in range to throw strikes back. With Loma Lookboonmee, it won't affect her in this matchup, but her push kick is going to get her into a lot of people's punching ranges. That's just the problem with Lookboonmee and her physicality in this weight class. Again, I don't think it's necessarily a factor that's going to pop up in this fight, because this will be one of the few times where both these fighters are pretty much the exact same size. I doubt either one's going to have a big advantage over the other one physically. But again, for Lookboonmee, I like her in the ranges that she's good at. It's just in this weight class and with her size, those are very specific ranges.
When you do look at it, I mean, for Lookboonmee, she was originally supposed to be taking on Diana Belbizia this weekend, so that's kind of the reason why it's such a short notice fighter. And the other answer to your question, Lookboonmee, if you go over to her Instagram, she was finally finishing up her schooling over the last year. So graduated, and that's the reason why she was away.
Just to my whole point about record, I know she's fighting Belbizia, but even Belbizia I would see is kind of around this level. I don't look at her as steps above this by any means.
Who the hell do you want Loma Lookboonmee to be fighting?
An Ashley Yoder type, maybe? Just, again, anybody with a
500 fighters, Ashley Yoder.
A fighter with a bigger name. That's my only point. She's been around this weight class for a long time. There's not a lot of unranked fighters in this weight class. I would just like to see Loma Lookboonmee fight more recognizable names this far into her career.
Well, again, when it does come down to this matchup, you do have two Muay Thai strikers, and considering it for Denise Gomes here, if you do look at it, she has bantamweight experience, flyweight experience, and a little bit of strawweight experience. So I would think, even though the heights and the reaches are fairly similar, Gomes is actually going to have a decent size advantage in a matchup like this. So if you do look at the odds in the matchup, Loma opened a pretty big favorite, minus 275, minus 255 or thereabouts right now. For Gomes, opened up at a plus 235, plus 205 as it stands. We have a look at the Tapology votes in this one, Matt. Surprised us, they are to you. And I wouldn't be surprised if Tapology is actually going the way of the short notice fighter. I'm going to say over under 60% for Brazil's D. Gomes.
I think Lookboonmee is going to be a favorite.
Big. Okay, completely wrong by me. 672 total votes, 71% Lookboonmee, 91% by decision. For Gomes, 29% have her to win, 74% by decision. So most seeing this going the way of a decision. Who wins the decision? That's the question, Matt.
I like Lookboonmee by decision. I think her work rate's really going to help her in this matchup, and that's the thing. I know she has to get this fight into a specific range, into that close range Muay Thai, but I think this is the fighter that will allow her to get into those ranges. I like her elbows on the inside. I do like her overall output in this fight, and that's why I do favor her. Again, I don't think this fight's going to end by stoppage, even though these two are very good strikers. They're not necessarily the most heavy-handed strikers out there, even though Gomes does have a good level of finishers on her record. I just don't think it's going to be easy to go out there and finish somebody like Loma Lookboonmee.
Belbizia, long-range striker for the division. Gomes, short-range Muay Thai striker. And when it comes to Gomes, if you look at her last fight against Rani Amanda, taller fighter, longer fighter, needs to get the fight down to the ground, and she negated all of that and lit her up on the feet and threw really good volume too. So both of these fighters well matched. If they had full camps, it'd probably be a really good fight. I like Loma Lookboonmee. I like the consistency with that volume that we've seen in her fights. The added wrinkle that, grabbed your leg. Now I can go for the takedown.
Sneaky.
I do like Loma Lookboonmee in this one. I think it's going to be a really good fight. And if you like the fact that, hey, those odds are so far apart, maybe you like Gomes on short notice, maybe that's the play. But let us know down below in the comment section who you have in this matchup. In the main event of this card, you have Corey Sandhagen, who's coming off an interim title loss, taking on Song Yadong, who's riding a wave of success. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. As we always say, let's get into it.